I think my husband's creepy best friend roped me when I was passed out, but nobody will tell me anything about what happened. When my husband's best friend Jack is drunk, he hits on me, doing things like touching my waist. My husband doesn't usually pick up on social cues, but even he senses it. Jack is a lot more bold with it when my husband isn't around, now grabbing my waist, but still does it in a way that he can deny it later. More examples of bold things include, he's told me I can change out of my bathing suit in front of him, as if it was more convenient than going to the nearby bathroom. He suggested we go skinny dipping. He also encourages us to drink. My husband and I have talked about this, and he thinks that Jack is in love with me. I think Jack just wants to sleep with me. Regardless, after a particular incident where he asked to touch my leg, I told Jack that he's too comfortable with me and he needs to respect our relationship. Jack said that he felt it was coming out of nowhere, we're his best friends, and he would never do anything like that. Now, my husband gives everyone else the benefit of the doubt. He doesn't like cutting people off or distancing from people unless they're absolutely, undeniably 100% horrible. When I tell him how I feel about people who are horrible to me and that I want to distance myself from them, he says that he isn't allowed to have friends, and that if I had it my way he would only have one friend left. So he knows how I feel, but I haven't made him cut Jack off, and we've just continued with the friendship like normal. Now onto the particular issue. 2 months ago, my husband got super drunk while we were hanging out with Jack and another friend, Brian, plus Jack's friend Zach. My husband ended up passing out on the toilet. I remember checking on him and he kept saying he wanted more time. Later, I had a sip of my drink. My memory starts getting blurry 30 minutes after the drink, but I don't remember drinking all that. Much to where I'd be blacking out. At around midnight we took a group selfie. I don't actually remember any of this, but I remember the thoughts and feelings I was having at that moment. Jack put his arm around me for the photo, but his hand was touching my butt. I remember thinking, weird, but that couldn't have been on purpose. Did that even happen? But I remember thinking about how he did it again, and that meant it definitely happened the first time too. In the photo, I can just barely see the reflection of his arm around me. That was right before midnight. I don't remember anything after that. The next day I woke up in his guest room next to my husband, covered in vomit and without a bra. My shoes were off and placed neatly next to each other, and there was a water bottle next to it. We didn't have a sheet or blankets or anything, just a mattress. When I showered, I found a massive bruise on my butt and was pouring red out of my back door. After getting ready to leave and heading downstairs, I found my bra on the floor in the kitchen. The next day, I asked Brian how I got the bruise and why my bra was in the kitchen. Brian said that around 2 a.m. I fell on the stairs while trying to go to the bathroom. Brian said that I never made it downstairs from the upstairs. He said he didn't know why my bra was in the kitchen, but that I probably threw it downstairs? Which, first of all, is weird, but second of all isn't physically possible since he said I was just 3 steps down from the top, and there's a wall there. He also said they heard me fall, helped me upstairs, and put me to bed afterwards because I was sleepy. He said I was totally fine before that. Then I texted Jack asking how hard I fell, and he said he didn't know. I asked Jack if he knew how my bra got in the kitchen, and he said he honestly had no idea. I told him it was bothering me, and he didn't respond. A week ago, I asked Jack in person what happened. He still said he had no idea. I told him that I didn't want to accuse him of anything but that I remember it not being a normal night, and he asked what I meant. I got angry and told him I remembered him touching my butt, and he's literally doing it in the group photo. He said that he gets touchy when he gets drunk, and he's sorry if he made me uncomfortable. He again said that he genuinely doesn't know how my bra got in the kitchen. I asked him if I did anything embarrassing and he said I didn't. He told me that I was taking shots with them, which I rarely ever do. I asked if I made it to the bathroom, and he said that I might have. He said that they put me to bed after I fell. I just can't believe that neither Jack nor Brian would know how my bra got off. It's unlikely for me to be wandering alone downstairs and taking my bra off. My husband said that if Jack actually did anything, he would probably cut him off. But he really doesn't think anything happened. He thinks I just got hot or uncomfortable and took my bra off. He still trusts Jack alone with me. I have felt so depressed about this and my husband has told me to try to distract myself rather than keep thinking about it.
My husband can't make me finish. So the title basically says it all. My husband and I have been together 10 years, married for 6. The intimate life has gotten boring to say the least. We went from having fun time every day to once maybe twice a month. I brought it up to him because I told him I missed it. He brushed it off and told me he, quote, felt comfortable so he didn't really think to put in any effort. That made me sad, but L expressed how I felt and put it out there. Nothing changed. Still very infrequent. Regardless, I was watching a TikTok the other day and the woman was talking about how a man has never made her finish. I thought it was absurd, but it had me thinking about our intimate life. Has he ever made me finish if I'm doing the work? It's pitiful, honestly. He initiates it because I stopped since I was turned down so many times. The initiation is most likely him asking me to go down on him. There's not really any touching. Or kissing. Which I miss. It's usually me going down until I feel like getting on top. I usually do all the work. Sometimes I can get off. Other times he finishes so fast I don't have a chance to. And if he does, I have to get off of him. There's no making sure I get there too. No foreplay. And it's been like this for as long as I can remember. I don't really even remember when he took his time to take care of my needs. I see what the lady in the TikTok was talking about. I'm having a bit of a meltdown because he thinks there's nothing wrong, but I am frustrated every single day. But I also feel like my nagging would turn him off from trying as well. My husband is the only man I've been with, so I don't know if this is normal or what. Someone please help.
What's the biggest plot twist you've seen in real life? During the last year of my grandfather's life, he had dementia and was having trouble keeping track of reality. Before he was placed into hospice, he kept complaining about a man that was in his house. He would say that he would come around at night and that he was taking his things and using his stuff. Grandma, of course, kept reassuring him that she was the only one there. His doctor increased his medications because he was losing touch with reality so badly. Fast forward to my grandfather's funeral, and a man showed up that wasn't known by more than a few people in the family. Turns out he was an old friend of my grandmother's who showed up to give his support. In a small town like that, it wasn't exactly an unusual thing to have random people show up to the funeral home who knew the person at some point. Well, about a year later, my grandmother let slip that she is seeing someone, the guy from funeral. At this point, nothing too odd. They got to talking at church and we thought it was sweet. Then a bit later, sweet innocent old grandma mentions that it's their 3rd anniversary. Grandpa passed 2 years prior. This man was the person that Grandpa saw in his house every night. He was the reason that everyone thought Grandpa was going crazy. He was the reason that my grandfather was medicated to the point of being a vegetable for the last horrible year of his life. Police officers, what are the most ridiculous cover stories you've heard from people you were questioning? Some kids were shooting bottle rockets, no big deal. But they were in an area where there had been some burglaries, so we checked it out. There were 3 of them when we pulled up, maybe 14 years old. Here's the thing though, they were pretty well cornered. On one side was a pond, on another side was a huge fence with barbed wire, and finally there was one side with an unclimbable embankment that led to some railroad tracks. Like I said, we had them cornered. 2 of them take off for the embankment and hide in the grass while one runs towards the fence. Well, the 2 that ran for the embankment were pretty well hidden. But Mr. Solo realized the fence had barbed wire, panicked, and decided to lay flat on his belly in ankle-high grass, hoping we couldn't see him. We walked up and asked him to get to his feet. Nothing. We repeated the directions. Do you know what he did? He rolled over, faked the biggest yawn he could muster, and started stretching this way and that. Then he asked, "Sorry, what? I was just sleeping." The whole scene was too funny. The officer and I start hysterically laughing. Tell the kid he's not in trouble and remind him not to run from the police. This kid really thought he could pretend he just woke up from a nap after we had just watched him sprint across the field and lay down. Good times. What's the most depressed you've ever felt during a video game? Weird answer, but I was playing Minecraft. One day, me and my friends started a game and only took around 30 minutes grabbing supplies to craft things like starter weapons and all of that basic stuff. It was already around 1 a.m., so we went to sleep and started the server up again the next day. While we were planning on how to build our base, I decided to go into a cave. I brought torches, a bucket of water, my weapons and whatnot. After around 20-30 minutes of exploring, I came to a dead end with a wolf sitting there. I was extremely confused because wolves don't usually just spawn in caves. This sort of freaked me out because it was just standing there as if it was waiting for someone. Waiting for me. I checked my inventory and it turned out I had some meat. Using the last bits of pork chops I had left, I brought her up to our base and I ended up taming her. I dyed her collar orange because it's the color I always give my dogs, and brought her with me everywhere for protection against anything that attacked me. I gave her a name, Pumpkin, with a little bit of work involving a name tag and an anvil. We remained as good friends as any player in their Minecraft pet would. She helped us fight mobs, went across the million seas with us, ate our Minecraft dinners with my friends and I. But one day while we were exploring, we decided that we shouldn't check the location coordinates, not even to go and find each other. We just described the island we were on, as if all of us could remember the islands. And for the most part, we could remember them. When we got back to our homeland, we continued on with our Minecraft days. We didn't notice that Pumpkin wasn't with us, and that she didn't teleport back until a couple of hours of playing later. I was absolutely freaking devastated. I remember actually crying about it after a while, and my friends all laughed at me, but later on tried to cheer me up. I demanded we went back and searched for the islands to go and get her. We never found her. What's your best? I didn't just dodge a bullet, but a tactical nuke story. There were a few days where all my appliances were breaking down. First the clothes washer, then the air conditioner, then the dishwasher. Then one morning before leaving for work, the refrigerator stopped cooling. I was in a terrible mood on my commute to work, and then I had a flat tire in the middle of rush hour traffic. I pulled over to the shoulder. Normally I would have got out immediately and started changing it. I can change a tire in 5 minutes. It wouldn't have even made me late, but everything breaking in the days leading up to this flat had me defeated. I rested my head on the steering wheel a few seconds and said out loud, "Why me when?" Almost as an answer, I was hit from behind. Traffic has slowed because of my pulling over, and an ambulance driver transporting a patient between hospitals decided to go around the traffic by driving in the breakdown lane. Damage to my vehicle was minor, but if it had been any other day, I would have been taking my jack and spare out at that moment and been crushed between my car and the ambulance. Everything worked out great. I got a 5-figure settlement from the ambulance company as they were clearly at fault hitting a car in the breakdown lane. It was a non-emergency transportation of a patient. And when I got home that day, all the appliances were miraculously working again.
A toxic ex sent me an unsolicited pic, so I sent it to his wife. The title says it all. This happened a few years ago. I was with a guy for almost 2 years, and ended it when I caught him cheating after suspecting it for a while. Several years passed by, and he kept trying to talk to me / get us back together, all before and after he got this girl pregnant and married her. I blocked him for several years. He tried to talk to me via other numbers. I blocked them too. I had deleted WhatsApp for a period of time, reinstalled it later to use, not realizing after deleting the account and reinstalling it, it removes blocked numbers from the account. Sure enough, after some time, he tried talking to me again, confessing his undying love. He was married with 2 kids at this point. Before I had a chance to block him, since I was busy at work, he sent me a pretty graphic photo of his member. The photo was in his supposed bedroom with plenty of background details of the room. I snapped a photo of the one-sided conversation and proverbial unsolicited image and sent it to his wife via Facebook Messenger. My family knows his family, so she wasn't difficult to find, despite him being blocked on my end. I kept it brief, but I told her I'm his ex he cheated on, to be wary of his ways, and that I'm sorry to have to show her this. I blocked his number again, keeping in mind about keeping WhatsApp activated, and moved on with my life. They are still together in a seemingly turbulent marriage. I feel terrible because they have kids and she seems like a nice person, but he's a piece of junk. I felt this was appropriate to share here.
My husband got our girlfriend pregnant without discussing it with me. My husband, 38, and I, 30, are in an open marriage. We've been married for 5 years and open for the past 2 years. Currently, we have a long-term girlfriend, 26, that we have both been with for just over a year. I'm also 30 weeks pregnant, and we're also excited to welcome our daughter into the world soon. Our relationship and time in the bedroom has never been better, until the other day when our girlfriend announced her pregnancy to us. I was so surprised, I didn't know she had been seeing anyone else. After I congratulated her, I asked who was the father, and she said that my husband was. This was something that we never talked about at all, so I politely asked her to leave while I discussed this with my husband. Apparently her seeing me pregnant and so excited convinced her that she was ready for motherhood herself, and she told my husband that she would be stopping her birth control. My husband never told this to me, and neither did our girlfriend. So the entire time we've been together for the past few months, they were having completely unprotected intimacy without my knowledge, which was not part of our arrangement. I'm still his wife and she's just our girlfriend. I feel so betrayed by my husband to go behind my back like that. They don't understand why I'm mad. They think that I should be happy. I was aware that my husband has a breeding fetish, so do I. But this is much, much different than just role-playing situations, and they don't seem to understand that. I don't know how else to express to them how disrespectful that was to me. We had a written agreement that birth control is to be used with our partners. We even discussed in that same written agreement that any pregnancies would not continue if it were to fail, but this was intentional and non-consensual. His girlfriend thinks he is cheating on her with me. She freaks out and puts us both in the hospital. Jeff, M, 20, and I, F, 18, live together in an apartment. It's just cheaper. The apartment is right between his job and my college. We each have a room and a large kitchen, bathroom, and living room. Just perfect. When Jeff met Suzanne, F, 20, I didn't initially realize that Jeff was in a relationship. We seldom saw each other. I didn't even realize his girlfriend slept with him. As I was standing in the kitchen on a Sunday just in my PJs, suddenly this person was standing in front of me, naked, and yelled at me what I was doing in the apartment. I tried to calmly explain to her that I lived here, but she didn't want to listen. Like a fury, she ran into Jeff's room and started yelling at him about how he could cheat on her. I'm sure she slapped him in the face a few times too. She ran back into the kitchen and went for my throat when Jeff intervened and tried to explain the situation to her, but she just couldn't be calmed down. The kettle was just finished. Before Jeff or I could do anything, she grabbed the kettle and poured the hot water over Jeff. He immediately fell to the ground screaming. Suzanne threw the hot kettle at my head, so I was knocked out. When I came to, I called the ambulance and Jeff and I were taken to the hospital. Jeff had to stay a few days because of the burns. On the second day, Suzanne stood in the room as if nothing had happened, and I apologized. I just looked at her and told her to fuck off. She ruined my brother's face. What's the best joke you know? An Irish man walks into a pub. What'll you have? The bartender asks. Give me 3 pints of Guinness, please, says the man. The bartender brings him 3 pints, and the man proceeds to sip them alternately, the first one, the next one, and then the third one, until they're all gone. He then orders 3 more. Sir, says the bartender, I know you like them cold. You don't have to order 3 at a time. I can keep an eye on you, and when you get Lola, bring you a fresh cold one. You don't understand, the man says. I have 2 brothers, one in Australia and one in the States. We made a vow to each other that every Saturday night we'd still drink together. So right now, my brothers have 3 Guinness too, and we're drinking together. What a wonderful tradition, the bartender says, smiling. Every week after that, the man comes into the bar and orders 3 beers. But one week he orders only 2. He drinks them and orders 2 more. I know what your tradition is, says the bartender sadly, and I'd just like to say that I'm sorry that one of your brothers died. Oh, me brothers are fine, says the man. I just quit drinking. What racist things do people do that they don't think is racist? I'm a white dude that has lived in Japan for 16 years. A while back I went on a date with a Japanese girl and we went to a bar in central Tokyo. The bar wouldn't let me in because I wasn't Japanese. This has happened so many times I didn't bother me, however the girl got really upset. After we were rejected from the bar, she said, I don't know why they wouldn't let you in, you were with me, I'm Japanese. And I was thinking that kind of misses the point. Can you imagine if a white and black dude went to a bar together in the States and they don't let the black dude in and the white guy says, I can't believe they didn't let you in. You're with me. I'm white. I even called the cops on a club once that had a sign that said Japanese only. The cops came in, I complained in Japanese, and the cops said in a super friendly tone, well, yeah, the sign says Japanese only and you're not Japanese. What's the problem here? There's another club down the street that allows foreigners. I like that one myself. Why don't you go check that one out? Japan is so inherently racist and xenophobic to the point that they don't even know that they are racist and xenophobic. It's just normal behavior to them, but for some reason everybody loves Japan, and they somehow get a free pass on it. Oh, and full disclosure, I ended up marrying the girl that I went to date with. Now we're racist to each other all the time. It's super fun. I surprised my girlfriend with Taylor Swift tickets. She wanted to bring her friend instead. Me and my girlfriend have been dating for 3 years now. My girlfriend is a huge Taylor Swift fan and was really excited when she found out Taylor would be performing at MetLife Stadium, right near us. I decided to surprise her with Taylor Swift concert tickets, since I knew she really wanted to go. I called in sick the day the tickets dropped, and waited in the Ticketmaster queue for 2 hours. Finally, when it opened up, I bought 2 seats, for $400 each, presumably one for her, and another for me. When she came back from work that night, I surprised her with the tickets, and she was ecstatic. However, when I claimed I was excited to go with her, she got very confused, and claimed she thought the 2 tickets were for her and her best friend, who is also a big Taylor Swift fan. I was very disappointed since I believed that this was an experience we could do together, and it would be something we would remember for the rest of our lives. My girlfriend could tell I was upset, and said she would be happy to go with me instead. I told her she should go with whoever she wanted to go with more, and to not go with me just because it was what I had planned. After hearing this, my girlfriend immediately called her friend, and told her that they were going to the Taylor Swift concert together. Ouch. I told my girlfriend that if her friend wanted to go with her, she had to pay the $400 for the ticket, and her friend agreed to. While my girlfriend and her friend went together and both had a great time, I felt betrayed since she chose her over me. While I know my girlfriend's BFF is a much bigger Taylor Swift fan than me, I was still excited to go since I've never been to a concert before, and I like to listen to some of Taylor Swift's songs. Like I said before, I also believe this would be a memory we could both remember together. Should I have done things differently and not given up my ticket so willingly? I'm scared of my wife, and it low-key turns me on. Let me start off by saying that I'm a 27-year-old guy, and my wife is 26. We've been together for 9 years and married for 7. It's safe to say that our relationship has grown in ways I never thought possible, but I've stumbled upon a realization that I never thought I'd admit to. I'm kind of turned on by how intimidating my wife can be. I've always been an introvert. I shy away from confrontation and generally just prefer to be left to my own devices. When my wife and I started dating when we were around 17, it was she who did all the pursuing. I had liked her for like 3 years, but never had the courage to tell her. So when I finally did, she took charge and asked me out. In fact, she initiated almost every milestone in our relationship. She's an extrovert to the core, loud, fierce, and never backing down, especially if she knows she's right. And those are all qualities I genuinely love about her. But a couple of weeks ago, something strange happened. I was out with my friends, and we were casually talking about our spouses. One of my friends made a comment about how intense my wife can be, and without thinking, I blurted out that it kind of turned me on. I immediately blushed and felt embarrassed, staying quiet for the rest of the outing. But the thought stuck with me. When I got home, I started thinking about it more and realized how much her attitude and strong nature resonated with me, and not just in an intimate way. Whenever she's passionate about something and stands up for it, I find myself feeling a surge of pride and excitement. I can't help but smile like a goofy teenager, thinking, that's my wife. Today, something happened that brought all these feelings to the forefront again. We got into a bit of a fight. We usually don't argue in front of the kids, but we do have moments when we're not as loving to one another. She was feeding our daughter, and when I walked into the room, she gave me the nastiest glare you could think of. I was taken aback, and yet I felt this strange thrill. I can't quite put my finger on why I feel this way or if this is even normal. My wife's affair just ended, and she wants to play it off as nothing happened. My wife and I have been together for 12 years and married for 8. For about 6 months, my wife has been very distant and very protective of her phone. In hindsight, I probably should have seen this red flag. Her escapes were, I'm going to Target to return something, but then she wouldn't come home for 3 or 4 hours. I'd ask her why, and she'd always say she was just looking through the store with her Starbucks. So I didn't think much of it. Possible red flag too. This is where it really jumped on my radar when I realized she did this every Saturday afternoon. Plus, she never came back with a Starbucks cup, and when I checked the account, it didn't show any charges. So one day I asked if I made her happy. She giggled and said yes in a sarcastic way and rolled her eyes. I have to say, watching that hurt, especially when she used to immediately say yes, making eye contact and giving me a kiss. So what I did next made me feel bad, but I bought an AirTag and placed it in the lining of her purse. I only did this because when I confronted her about her Saturday afternoon trip, she got very defensive about it, saying she deserves time to herself, which I agree, but then said Chris likes seeing her. I was like, who is Chris? My wife said he works at the Starbucks. Anyway, one Saturday after she left to go to Target, I was watching her location, and she did go to Target for about 10 minutes. Then she left and went to an apartment building. That's when I got in my car and went to that location. I went to the front office to see if I could get access to the apartment and told them the story. Turns out Chris has always been a jerk to the front office, and they were more than happy to help. They lead me to the apartment and let me in. I could hear noises coming from the bedroom with the door cracked open a bit. I took out my phone and from the cracked open door recorded about 30 seconds of them doing the deed. I left and drove home in shock. I couldn't believe she'd do this to me. I know I'm not the easiest guy to get along with. I'm a Marine Corps veteran and I've been diagnosed with PTSD and a TBI. For years I've been doing therapy and trying like hell to be the husband she deserved. This whole thing shattered me to the core. When my wife came home later, I was in a mood, so I completely shut down. Usually she asks what she can do to help me, but this time she just said, "Another mood, huh? Oh, well, I'm going to shower." I was like that until Monday when I could see a lawyer. Showed my lawyer everything I had and that I wanted a divorce. He said he'd write up the paperwork and have it for me in like a week. Well, that turned into 3 because he had gotten sick and wasn't able to work. No biggie. But during those 3 weeks of waiting for the papers, my wife went back to her normal ways. Only thing I could come up with was the affair ended, but I wasn't sure. After 3 weeks, I get the papers and gave them to her. She was shocked and asked why I wanted a divorce. I showed her the video and she was in shock at first, then angered that I'd follow her and record that. She explained it meant nothing and everything's back to normal since he ended it. A part of me still loves her still, but the other part is destroyed, and the 30 seconds video is burned into my brain. She suggested marriage counseling, but I don't know what to do. It hurts to think about my situation and I needed an outlet. So I came here to vent, and I guess if anyone reads this, if they have some advice or anything. Is it normal for my son to watch me undress? My son is now married and 27 years old. He still watches me even though I'm 50 years old. It started when I caught him in action. He was in his 20s, and my poor boy didn't have a girlfriend at that time. I had stepped out of the shower to my room in my undergarments, drying my hair with a towel, to wear clothes that I had laid out on the bed. I would usually close my door to the room, But I must have forgotten that particular day, and that's when I saw my son walk past the room. Through the corner of my eye, I could see him taking a quick peep at me, and when I had turned my face towards the door, he wasn't there anymore. It made me laugh. The next day, the very same thing happened. I had kept the door open and saw him walking by when I came out of the shower. When this happened on the third day, it confirmed that this was no coincidence. I am someone who has struggled with weight my whole life, and as a chubby woman, when he was spying on me, made me more confident about my body. This trend continued for a while, where I acted innocent and wore my clothes in front of him, and one day I decided to give him an eyeful. The next morning I stepped out of the shower naked. Judging by his look, this was something which my son hadn't anticipated. I looked towards the door, and this time he was too slow, and so I caught him officially. I called his name out and instructed him to come in. He walked in scared and had his head down and apologized. I covered my breasts with one hand and had my crotch covered with the other. I pardoned him and told him it was okay as long as it stayed between the two of us. I uncovered myself and put hands on my hips and told him he didn't have to spy on me anymore and could just look at me whenever he wanted to. He was shocked and had his mouth open. He couldn't believe it. His eyes were fixated at my breasts. He became shy and he wanted to step out of the room, but I told him to stay put. I turned around 360 and gave him a show and asked him about my body. He said it looked great, and he claimed that I was the first woman he had seen naked, so that made my day. It felt really exciting when he saw me in my birthday suit. With time, he became normalized with my body and nudity. He moved out and got married, and last week he came to visit with his wife. His wife must have gone out somewhere, and when it was just the two of us at home, he asked me when I would be taking my shower. This was my cue to get undressed, and so I did. I feel flattered every time he does that, and I feel beautiful that I still look desirable to men his age.